So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks, as the case may be. We've had global registration for this seminar, webinar, so thank you and welcome. We greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. We know how crazy the world is for all of us, and so thank you for taking time out of your day or evening to join us. For our webinar on From Efficiency to CX Excellence, we hope that this will be insightful, and if we can impart a couple or three nuggets that you can take away and apply to your jobs moving forward and your situations moving forward, we will consider this a great success, and hopefully you do as well. My name is Frank Tersigni. I'll be your co-host and I'll be your host and co-presenter. So jumping into the agenda, we'll have a very brief set of introductions for Eric and I, and so just kind of give you a sense of who we are and where we're coming from. And then we'll talk about, I will talk a little bit about kind of improving operational efficiency with managed services and kind of the gap that exists between what we believe the market demand is and what is being provided by many vendors, and sort of the area of making sure that your systems are running well and optimized to the best of their capabilities. So that's sort of my section. Then we'll talk about Eric will take over and talk about some of the end-to-end testing capabilities that Hammer brings to the table. In our opinion, and we're very closely connected and integrate Hammer into many of our solutions, believe that will deliver kind of insurance, if you will, to make sure that the systems are delivering what your customers are expecting, what you hope to deliver to them when you design these things and operate them. And then lastly, talk about the synergy between how ongoing managed services and testing can continue to deliver that experience that you're hoping to for your clients, and how you make sure you protect yourself as things evolve and grow and expand to the needs of the market and to the needs of your organization. And then we'll have a little bit of Q&A. So if we can go to the kind of the rules of engagement, if you will, so all of you other than Eric and I are muted, and so we will open that up at the end. So we're glad to do that. Look forward to some of those questions. In the meantime, if you have a question on any of the content that we present along the way, don't hesitate to post it in the chat panel on the right-hand side, as is normal in these Zoom sessions. And then lastly, we will be recording this. It is being recorded, and so you will receive a copy of the recording and the slides after the fact. So just feel free to listen in. Don't have to take crazy notes, and just enjoy the show. So in terms of background, there's a lot of words on my side of the page. Suffice to say that I guess it suggests that I've been around a long time and I'm old. But I guess the bottom line to all of that is that my entire career pretty much has been in the customer experience realm, contact center, and kind of surrounding ecosystem of solutions, both on the vendor side for people like Genesis and others, as well as on the partner side, the integrator side, for people like Altavon, ConvergeOne, and now at Servion. So my role at Servion is I'm Chief Revenue Officer. I'm responsible globally for sales and marketing for the company, and ensure that our solutions are delivering upon the promise that we make to the market. I've been in the business for as long as I have, and specifically stayed in customer experience because I passionately believe that there's no other part of the technology stack that our customers have that is as important as the CX/contact center area. Our success doing them well, doing our solutions well or poorly, will impact brand, it impacts top line, it impacts reputation, it impacts customer loyalty, far more so, in my humble opinion, than any other part of the technology stack that our customers have. So we think it's highly demanding, but we love it. And because when we do our jobs well, which hopefully we do most, if not all of the time, it has an incredibly positive impact on our customers and their customers, most importantly. So that's why I'm here and who I am. And so maybe Eric, just quickly on Servion, 2-second commercial. We're a global systems integrator, been in the business for 25 years. Our job is to address the needs and wants of our customers, our clients, in terms of how they deal with their customers from a customer experience perspective, and to provide a set of solutions from our portfolio of partners to deliver those capabilities to our partners, both implementing them and, more importantly, managing them over the long term. So with that's me. That's Servion. Eric, a few words about yourself and Hammer.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. So I'll try to be brief. Honestly, with me, I've spent the last 15 to 16 years in the CX space. Honestly, started out in sales, slinging key systems, and realized really quickly that I really like to tinker. And so progressively got into more and more advanced roles and found myself as an overlay over the last 15 years at multiple, vendors and manufacturers. And honestly, hit Hammer 3 years ago. A friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Have you seen this?" And I'd been testing systems, blowing up servers for years, and had never really even realized the test automation market. And so, Hammer goes back 30 years. Back in 92, Hammer was formed as kind of an A/B testing company testing PBX manufacturers and working in telco back closets. But over that 30 years, we've evolved into what I would consider the leading DevOps platform for CX environments. And Frank and team have kindly brought us in, and yeah, hopefully we can go through some of this stuff today and give you some nuggets that some of you can use.
Great, thanks, Eric. Let's jump in. I'm not expecting you to be able to read this chart, and that's the point, I suppose. This is our good friend Nicholas Dikachowski is one of the better industry analysts out there, and he does this logo chart regularly, updates it. It is as up to date as you would hope for, and he basically adds all of the companies. Each logo represents a company that plays in that particular space across the self-service, interaction management, workflow, and analytics kind of rows, and then a bunch of columns. And you can see, if you can, you get these and you look at them, there's a little box for conversational IVR, there's a little box for agent assistance, and a little box for CPaaS and all the vendors that are in those. And the reality is there's almost 1,200 different logos on this chart. And the message is pretty straightforward. This is an incredibly complex landscape that you, the clients, and we as your partners need to navigate and try to figure out. And when you layer that on with the unique kind of requirements of your individual businesses, and each one of you is very unique and have your own demands as your customers do on you, it's really difficult to try to figure out, where do I start? Where do I go? How do I bring this all together into an experience that my customers are looking for? And so I had an opportunity to sit down with the CIO of North American major airlines a couple of years ago, and he said, Frank, we live at the corner of complexity and velocity in the world we live in CX, and it's coming at us so fast and it's getting so complex. And if you step off the curb in the wrong way without looking, with a plan, you're gonna get run over. And so the challenge for you as our clients is difficult. And so we recognize that, and we think many of our clients say it's just so confusing. You add AI, which is 4 or 5 or 6 boxes on this chart. There's one generative AI, and the second one from the top right. There's probably 60 logos in there, and that's right next to conversational AI, which is right next to intelligent virtual assistants, which is AI based. You get this kind of difficulty of saying, who do I partner with? How do I do this? And so the bottom line is that you need to work through this. And when you look at where the companies are investing, where companies like you are getting the most kind of investment or making the most investment, the 3 big ones right now, again, no surprise, in terms of where the major number of companies are growing, is in Gen AI, in workforce engagement, and conversational engagement. So there's a recognition by the companies that are being created to address the needs that you have in figuring out how to apply Gen AI to CX, figuring out how to improve the workforce engagement that your agents bring to the table when they do actually speak or interact with clients, after they go through all the automation that's provided on the right-hand side in terms of engaging from a conversational perspective. So this is where the big growth on that logo slide is. And what it means is that it's incredibly difficult for companies. We speak to CIOs and people in executive roles on the business side, and the common refrain is, yes, we know we have to implement AI. We know we have to do that. We already moved to the cloud. We still have to figure out how to add AI to the mix, and so it becomes a really difficult requirement for them to figure out. If you look at, in that kind of backdrop of the complexity and the logos, if you look at kind of the challenges we see that you have as our clients and people out in the industry, is that the first thing, as I've said, is the technology, the landscape's consistently changing. So it's making it really difficult for you as clients to figure out how to navigate through that. But when you even make decisions, the job gets even more complex, because then you have to integrate them. I mean, there's lots of organizations out there will say we do it all, but we all know that there's lots of gaps and unique capabilities that these smaller players, newer players can bring to the table. Some of the best technologies come from newer vendors at the start of the game, if you will. And so when you make those decisions to implement new capabilities, you now have the integration issue, which is not as easy as people make it seem to be. I mean, APIs are just a door. You still have to figure out how to build a sidewalk. You're going to have to unlock it, figure out how to walk through the door, and then keep the door open to make sure the traffic keeps going. So APIs are part of the solution. And people say, oh, we have APIs. Well, guess what? That's just, as I say, one step in the direction. So it can be really hard. And when you think about the skill gap, it's been an interesting reality that our OEM partners, who are near and dear to our heart, the cloud vendors, have said for a number of years, Don't worry, you just get the license, the software subscription. It includes maintenance. And so you really don't need to have any kind of managed services or support beyond that. We all know that's not true, especially now after experiencing for a while, especially in the context of the fact that with the cloud migration to the cloud, many IT organizations who used to take care of the end user part of the organization, if you think about, if you go back 3, 4 years, we were on premise, you had a system, it had annual updates, you had IT kind of holding your hand through the process of, let's see what the new capabilities are, let's see what training has to happen, let's do the testing, let's make sure we do it on a Saturday night at 2 a.m. in the morning to make sure that there's no negative impact on the upgrade. IT held your hand through that entire process. Well, the new reality is that IT isn't doing that, because the cloud vendors are selling directly to the business units. The IT organization is focused on other things, and so now you're kind of left on your own to figure out how to create those skills that you have to deploy or employ to use some of the new capabilities, especially when it comes to AI and analytics, which are really complex and really require a whole new set of thinking and a whole new set of skills. So that skills gap is something that not just exists when you implement and you move to something like the cloud, but more importantly, it consists continually through the ongoing organization or operation of your solution. The last piece of it, of course, is the whole area of data management, which, if you're going to be successful with AI and analytics, you need data. And so this is a new area of expertise that many organizations are trying to figure out in terms of how do we manage it, how do we bring it together, how do we synthesize it, how do we make it accessible to only our organization, how do we protect ourselves from external data being leaked into our company and vice versa. And so it raises a whole new area of struggle that many businesses are going through. So we historically we've used the terms managed services to address some of these capabilities and some of the services we offer. We're changing that. Just go back. I'll talk about this in a second, but we're changing. You'll hear us talking about O&I services moving forward, which we think far more accurately represents what we as Servion need to do with you and using Hammer and our partner in that, which is optimization and innovation. We think that's the kind of discussion we need to be bringing to you, not just making sure things work and making sure the lights are on and doing moves and changes and the kind of traditional things that people think about from a managed services perspective. It's about optimizing what you have, making sure it runs flawlessly, making sure it delivers all the capabilities you need, and then innovating along the way, innovating with new capabilities from your existing vendors and innovating with new vendors and new capabilities that you're looking to add. And so we think that kind of it's a mindset change, really. It's just a naming convention change, but we think it introduces a new mindset that we're excited about in terms of taking a very different role in helping our clients move to where they want to be on an ongoing basis with their technology in the area of CX. So if you look at an example on the next slide, Salva, that we've got, this is a very typical manifestation of what I'm talking about. This is a real architecture diagram from one of our existing banking customers, and you've got the kind of the dotted lines around the Genesys Cloud solution, which we implemented for them and managed for them on an ongoing basis. There are some pieces from the App Foundry in terms of reporting and AI. Inside the little cloud, inside the dotted lines, is all the capabilities that are within Genesys. In some cases, some of these things are actually not from, in other situations, you may have knowledge management from another third party integrated within Genesys. You may have WFM from a vendor like Verint integrated with Genesys in this case, or Cisco or NICE CX1 or whatever the case may be. So this gets more complicated. This is actually a relatively simple diagram from an architecture, because many of the capabilities are being consumed from within Genesys. And you've got all the other pieces. You've got nuanced voice biometrics, which is kind of connected to the system outside of the Genesys cloud capability. You've got the actual agents, and all of the back office systems. Don't forget, this is just the contact center and a portion of the CX landscape. Doesn't include CRM, doesn't include all of the back office financial information systems that this bank has. It is an incredibly complex world, as you know. And so as you try to manage this and you try to pick out solutions, this is the reality where an organization like Servion with their optimization and innovation services kind of help organizations both get here and then continue to move forward past here as their requirements change. Next slide, Selva. So it's interesting that we see, unlike what was predicted by the Gartners and others, the analysts of the world 4 or 5 years ago, when there was some prediction, and even those of us in the business, quite frankly, I'll be honest, we were concerned when people started moving to the cloud. We kept thinking, well, how do we add value after the people have moved to the cloud? Because the vendors are saying, don't worry, it's all included. Support and maintenance prices are included. We take care of you. You don't have to worry about it. It's really easy. Do it yourself kind of technology. And so there's some fear amongst the vendor community, the integrator community, that our role ongoing might diminish over time. The reality is somewhat different. In fact, contrastingly opposite. We've talked about the fact that complexity is not going away. We don't need to beat that one down any further. And especially when you've got multiple clouds, you got hybrid architectures with multiple clouds being involved. You got the average contact center customer experience customer has 12 different applications from 12 different vendors in many cases. And so you think about the requirements for integration, the requirements for ongoing management. What happens when one of those gets upgraded or a new features downloaded from the cloud overnight you don't even know about because of the continual innovation cycle that the vendors are on, which is laudable, but it's hard to digest if you don't really pay attention, and who knows what it breaks. So this is where the requirement for managed services and what we call optimization and innovation services is increasing dramatically. We're seeing on the right-hand side, a number of businesses are turning to us. We're having interesting conversations with people who bought directly, whether it be a Genesis, a NICE, a Cisco, a Verint, whomever the case may be, and are saying, you know what, we need some help to manage this thing. We admit that we need some help from an ongoing optimization perspective. And so we're actually not just doing it when we actually implement the system, but we're actually getting involved after the fact and coming in to add new capabilities for clients on the managed services area where we weren't the original vendor, if you will, or implementer of the solution. It's kind of an interesting change of the landscape, which we didn't expect, to be honest. So we're seeing, as a grand view suggests, that the global managed services market is growing almost 15%, or will grow 15% per annum over the next 5 years. And we know that's, the rule of 72 suggests that the market therefore doubles within that period of time, which is not insignificant considering there's billions of dollars being spent on this. So that's and we've got a lot of details to go through in terms of our optimization and innovation services. We'll talk about an opportunity for you to digest that after the fact. But one of the things that we see, this is an interesting kind of slide in terms of, it talks about two things. One, it talks about the typical integration or migration from premise to cloud, and on the various steps that typically happen along the way. And where we, with Hammer, have a unique ability to deploy their technology, and Eric's going to jump into the use cases here, but not just at the very beginning of the process. When you start the project, there's an opportunity to make the job a lot easier. Some explore and kind of capabilities, which Eric will talk about, in terms of understanding what you have before you even start, which is a clear point of differentiation, where you need to know where you are before you can figure out how you measure your success against that down the road. And then through the process of testing and validation, we bring Hammer back in to talk about making sure that the system is ready for prime time in a truly deep manner, not just kind of sending a bunch of phone calls at it or interactions at it. And then how you continue to do that, because this is where people typically stop. After the testing and validation stage, I've seen over and over in my career, we do the Hammer testing, right, on before cutover, and then everything goes well, everything's set, system gets cut over, and on we go to operation. And we never go back. And we do updates, we do integrations, we add new capabilities, and we only wait for the customers to tell us that something's broken. We only wait for something to go wrong before we realize that something might have happened in the system. And that just leads to bad experiences by our customers, not of our own accord, not by design, but simply because things are complex and things break in the technology world, especially when you add new capabilities and have the complexity I've described. And so we, in our optimization and innovation services, actually have Hammer baked in. So we're doing ongoing testing to make sure that the systems are operating to their design point, getting early warning signs of any things that might be going wrong. And we think that is delivering incredible value to our customers to make sure that they're protected, right, along the way. So Eric, do you want to talk about some of the testing and use cases that you do, kind of the 3 different points on the chart?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Frank. I mean, your overview really put me in a good position to, I feel like, talk about the power of our partnership with you guys at Servion. So I guess I'd like to try and expand a little bit on how, you've already brought up how Hammer Test Automation kind of elevates your already exceptional CX implementation services, right? What I want to talk about is kind of the tangible results, like the first time accuracy accelerated timelines, load verification, proactive post-deployment monitoring. It's not just about those faster deployments. It's about building a foundation for, I guess, what I would call sustained high quality customer interactions across these projects. So this slide being kind of that visual representation of where the Hammer toolset fits in Servion's migration framework. What I'll try to do over the next few slides is dig into these use cases listed here and then talk about the benefits throughout the migration process. In the next few slides, what I'm going to start with is kind of the 5 key pillars of where Hammer, and before you can hop on, it doesn't matter, but the whole point is where we kind of ride alongside Servion's expertise, right? Driving those transformative outcomes throughout the CX DevOps lifecycle, like you see here. I want to talk a little bit about how we move beyond traditional human perception-led testing to proactively discovering and then using real machine data to plan and baseline those designs, making sure those migrations aren't just validated, but optimized, right? And then we'll look a little bit at how we automate compliance and regulatory verification, turning, like bottlenecks into points of efficiency, and also talk a little bit about automating the development life cycles as well. In addition, how proactive monitoring and reduced mean time to resolution they're not just metrics, but they're indicators of how excellent of a customer experience actually is. So ultimately, my goal here over the next couple of slides, just to really demonstrate how this integrated approach translates to a future where your CX environment delivers exceptional value consistently. Hang on, if you would go back to that slide for me, and I'm going to go through those 5 pillars. So pillar 1, discover, plan, and baseline designs. We start here by providing that comprehensive visibility into existing systems, automating mapping of IVR systems, helping to establish benchmarks using machine data across quality assurance and load testing to lay that foundation for your CX strategy throughout the project, right? Pillar 2, accelerate and validate migrations. Here, migrations, like you mentioned, Frank, they're inherently risky. The automation tools validate the performance across all the customer interactions from end to end, like I said, machine data, minimizing human errors and reducing delays, which inevitably makes for a better transition, right? The third pillar, meeting compliance and regulatory verification. Here we're kind of focusing on protecting your revenue and reputation, right? Ensuring that when things are supposed to work and they have to, they do. Here we're kind of looking at helping you manage those risks and adhere to SLAs, safeguarding business from revenue impacting events. It's that insurance policy that you mentioned. And then pillar 4, automate development lifecycle. So here we're helping to streamline your development process. So test automation that can significantly increase and accelerate the validation of changes across the environment from all those third-party applications and integrations you mentioned to just general system updates. I mean, this general CX environment is getting more and more and more complex, right? And so maximizing your resource efficiency and on top of that, a seamless customer experience that we're all shooting for. And then pillar 5, proactively monitor and reduce mean time to resolution. So here we're talking about going beyond that passive monitoring with 360 degrees of that outside in, inside out, data-driven insight approach, which allows for that much, much faster mean time to resolution, enhanced system performance, improved efficiency, and overall job satisfaction for your agents, your IT, your help desk staff. Let's go on to slide 2, or the next slide. Here I want to move from that broad overview to more tangible benefits that you get from implementing test automation like this. We've seen significant results across numerous use cases with and how these translate to your organization. So number 1, risk mitigation. That's our claim to fame. Our clients are seeing 70% reduction in overall operational risk, 85% increase in test consistency, and a 95% reduction in overall defects. Efficiency gains and time savings. Time's money, right? Hammer delivers up to 80% reduction in overall testing time, 75% faster test execution, and 80% improvement in first-time quality. Better test coverage. So getting an increase in test coverage of over 100%, alongside a powerful suite of non-functional testing capabilities to fill those gaps. That's huge. Beyond the core benefits, some of the additional metrics, we're talking about customers reporting 60% cost savings beyond their legacy testing operations. So, that's huge. Enhancing the testing user satisfaction, another major component on the back end, strengthen regulatory compliance. And then lastly, validating end-to-end voice quality and CTI data. Hammer customers report 60% reduction in CTI deployment testing timelines, 90% reduction in mean time to resolution, and a 10 to 15 point improvement in their net promoter scores. Next slide. So here I want to kind of look at how Hammer achieves the results in general. This slide is our overall testing approach. So on the left, you've got our call generation and customer emulation applications, Hammer Performance, Hammer Voice Watch, and Hammer QA. So these applications generate real-world omni-channel traffic, emulating real customer interactions with a purpose. The Hammer-generated interactions flow across your CX communication layers from that customer origination. So think, PSTN across the WAN and LAN layers to ensure that proactive CX assurance, multi-channel scalability, and end-to-end performance. On the right, we've got Hammer's virtual agent endpoints, which those are there to validate bidirectional voice quality and CTI data by logging in as a real agent on your actual CX platform. And then additionally, over here on the right, we've got Hammer Edge, which is there to provide endpoint observability, which is there to give you granular visibility into things like agent voice quality, network performance, and application performance down to the employee device. So think, is my agent available and can they do their work effectively? Is it going to impact, or is something in their way to impact, their interaction with the clients? And then also providing business insights across the individual business units and at a global level. Along the bottom, we've got Ativa, which is our passive monitoring solution, what I like to call our Wireshark on steroids. It provides that persistent application for deep issue detection and alerting across all layers of the traffic. So in no particular order, these tools combined give us significant reduction in time to resolution for issues, voice quality assurance, remote workforce optimization, improved first call resolution, improved agent productivity, and reduced attrition of agents, which is a big factor that we see a lot. And then, in general, just targeted troubleshooting. So next slide, please. So finally, I want to look at the real world impact Hammer as it's demonstrated by our customer survey results. So I think this will resonate with a lot of folks. And, we know that just simply reacting to problems won't cut it. And organizations today need proactive and data-driven results, right? And therefore, Hammer, alongside Servion, helps your organizations move beyond traditional troubleshooting and basic testing, enabling that the smarter, more streamlined CX operations. Our focus is to provide you with insights to make more informed decisions, improve customer interactions, and make strategic improvements that lead to better customer satisfaction overall, because you can identify and fix issues much, much faster. But also helping you stay compliant with regulations, reducing risk. And one key component is optimizing those resources, improving your system efficiency so you can make the most out of these significant investments. Our recent survey shows the real impact of this approach. We found that customers were able to launch new features and updates over 50% faster, which means you can quickly respond to market changes, right? We've also seen a significant shift in how resources were used. Over 10% of our call center agents were able to move to more valuable roles. And 2/3 of our testers were able to be, our customers' testers were able to be reassigned to more important projects. So this shows kind of how the automation can really free up your team to focus on higher level tasks. Finally, we saw that customers were able to recover up to 80% of abandoned calls, which means you can turn those potential losses into real positive customer experiences. And then a 90% reduction in mean time to resolution means your systems are more reliable. They're leading to fewer disruptions, and finally, and the most important, it's a happier customer. So essentially, Hammer alongside Servion helps you guys to use data and automation to improve your CX performance and deliver much better results. My hopes that we've briefly illustrated how Servion and Hammer combined are delivering that new standard in CX automation. So thank you all for your time today, and Frank, hand it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Good job. I'd like to kind of spend a few minutes here before we open up for questions on where we've done this successfully together with Hammer. We made the decision a little while ago to make sure that Hammer was included in all of our managed services offerings, so that we could make sure that the promise that we've talked about is being met. But in three particular cases across three different industries, actually in three different kind of technology realms. The first success story is a well-regarded, well-known retailer, large deployment. This is a Cisco and Verint deployment for the most part. We've been managing their environment for a number of years and have added the Hammer Live Application Monitoring with VoiceWatch. And the impact has been significant in terms of the kind of the SLAs, uptimes that we're seeing, the reduction in the P1, P2 issues, by getting early warning systems in place and knowing when things are seemingly going a little awry well before they actually fail. So that has been incredibly valuable to the client and to the experience they're delivering to their customers and their members. The middle one is a large banking organization in the Middle East. This is Genesis. The first one was Cisco Verint. This is Genesis. And in this case, similarly, moving them to the cloud and introducing the managed services has made a significant impact on their TOC, their total cost of ownership, and some of the new capabilities they're able to deliver, including some very interesting banking by using a social media channel, kind of new applications that were not possible before, are being introduced on a kind of an as needed, as wanted basis in a logical way. The last one is a dental provider, dental benefits provider, almost 1 million members in this organization. This is a NICE CX1 deployment. Again, deploying, moving to the cloud, and adding the Servion Managed Services Optimization and Innovation Services to make sure that their system's running well. And they've seen a significant improvement in CSAT to align with some of the things that Eric was talking about in the surveys that he's seen that Hammer conducted. So those are three examples of where we've done it. The point is, I think that the services and the use of Hammer is somewhat agnostic from a platform perspective. We really don't care whether it's any of the major players. We work well with all of them. Hammer works very well with all of them. And so that is a significant advantage that we bring to the table in terms of not being overly concerned about the technology stack that you might have in place, or whatever you want to move to for that matter. So on to the next question. We've got 5 minutes or so, or the next slide. There is I want to make sure that we have an opportunity for Q&A. But before we go to the Q&A, I just want to make sure that you know that if you scan what's on the screen and complete the survey, we will reward you accordingly for your feedback. So thank you for that in advance. On the left is a really kind of special offer I'd really like you to think about, where Servion and Hammer will do what we call a Hammer number audit, where we'll do a free phone number validation to automatically test up to 200 of your phone numbers to see whether there's any issues, to see whether they're being answered, to see whether there's any jitter, to see whether they're being responded to by the IVR system appropriately, or whatever the answering system is. So that's something we'll do for you. That is a special offer that you can follow up by getting to us. So with that, I think there are some questions. I think I saw one come by. I'll go to the chat. I think there's one in there. Let's see here. The first question, Eric, is how can managed services and testing services improve CX and reduce downtime in contact center operations? Do you want to take a shot at that? And I have an opinion, but I think that's right up your alley.
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't answer the managed services side of it as much as just from the Hammer technology perspective. But from reducing downtime and improving customer experience. It's talking about, or my thought is around automation of those things that really focus in on the key benchmarks that you want to set with your customers, right? So it's next to impossible for a human to call in all day across every aspect of the customer journey and validate each one of those components. And so a customer calls in and they have an issue reaching an agent. Oftentimes those passive metrics just miss that. You're not going to catch that with, say, let's say, your SBC is up and green and you're getting 200 OKs in both directions, but the customer calls in and they can't reach the agent. Why? Well, something like proactive monitoring, we can go in on an interval, maybe, every 15 minutes or so, and just test every step along the way. Is your database is leaking or slowing down or any of those types of interactions? Catch it, flag it, and send that out. Also, too, from the opposite side, the endpoint, looking at the agent's desktop, does that agent have access to all the applications that they need? Do they have good voice quality? And those types of things across that journey. So increasing both the customer and agent experience, to me, is a big component.
Bang on, Erica. From a managed services perspective, in terms of improving the customer experience, customer experience in my view is not a static. It's not you're never done with customer experience. It is an ongoing, moving target, if you will, as your customers' needs and experience requirements change, as they work with other vendors in other industries. They often say you shouldn't, if you're a utility, you shouldn't compare your customer experience against other utilities. You should compare your customer experience against Four Seasons and Apple, and you name the best experience companies out there. And because that's what your consumers are comparing you to. And so it's never static and never finished. And so our ongoing managed services but essentially, I like to say we sit on the same side of the strategy table, figure out what those ongoing requirements is. And with the managed services, kind of help you first understand you really well in terms of what you need. And then secondly, help you create a roadmap and navigate that in a kind of a piecemeal fashion to make sure that you're continually innovating and continually improving that customer experience you're offering. And obviously, from a managed services perspective, we're making sure the system's running with the use of technology. So clearly, one of our ideal objectives is to reduce downtime. So that kind of comes as a standard, if you will, table stakes of our offering. So that's the answer to that one. Thanks for that question. I've got one other here, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and be on time on budget. I'm going to tell you so this might be for you again, Eric. What are the key challenges businesses face in testing their contact center systems, and how does Hammer's solution address those?
Great question. And I hope I go in the right direction of where that question was framed. So one of the biggest challenges I think that a lot of our customers and partners face is dealing with, shared environments, things that dealing with SLAs and things like that, where, we're testing a complex environment. We need to validate that the system can stand up under operational load or even busy season. So those are some key challenges to look at, because customers really don't see that until, the load spikes and we break something, right? Another is the complex environments where we need to understand multifaceted journeys, things where the calls are hitting multiple types of technologies before it gets to an agent or along the way, right? And so being able to have a platform that can automate that is kind of instrumental in where we fit that bill.
Yeah, I agree, Eric. And if I can kind of double click on that, I think one of the challenges, and it's industry specific to a degree, but I think of some industries like utilities as an example, or roadside assistance, where if there's an outage, a system outage in a utility, electricity is down, gas is out, whatever the case may be, the volumes spike in terms of inbound volume. And so your system, and the last thing, and in some cases it's a life-threatening situation, right? You've got a significant issue. It could be a gas leak, whatever the case may be. It could be an explosion, whatever, God forbid. And you've got this situation where it's the most important time when the consumer needs to be able to hit that utility. And that's when the thing spikes. And if you haven't tested for that, you haven't prepared for that, you could be out, if you will, and not available in a very critical situation. Similar with roadside assistance, I think about, one of our clients in a prior life of mine was AAA up in the Michigan area. And in the wintertime, you will have some times when it is really, really dangerous out there. And when a call volume is going to increase, people are stuck on the side of the road in a snowstorm. And if they can't get through because you haven't tested for peak and prepared yourself with the appropriate programs, you could have people sitting on the side of the road who can't reach anybody. And so these are situations that are challenges that I think Hammer helps significantly, along with our ongoing services. So with that, I want to thank everybody for hanging in and listening to us. We're on time. We're closing as per the 45-minute time frame. So thank you. You will receive copies of the presentation of the webinar. So thank you again. If you have any requirements for ongoing services around, if you think you're not able to manage your existing environment, if you think that you need help, then you have gaps in your services in terms of managing your systems, please give us a call. We'd love to help and get you to the next level with Hammer. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.